It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, "Stop it! Stop! Are you effing kidding me?" And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just. This is a debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Help me.
So I was in.
Help me.
I will just, so I was in.
Man, oh man, you guys already knew that this day was coming. Doomsday for Tim Walz, because JD Vance went ahead and bent this man Tim over the table and gave him some of that good old-fashioned LGBTQ action. Because JD Vance destroyed Tim Walz, okay? He clapped the cheeks, okay? Like, this was ugly, okay? This was forced, no lube. It was pretty freaking horrendous, okay? This was on every issue, even issues like abortion. Tim Walz got destroyed on. How do you lose in today's dot rocket, dot pocket, thotosaurus world? How do you lose on the abortion issue versus a Republican? How? Tim Walz, Tampon Tim found a way to do it, and the liberal media is melting down. They're going crazy, and they're extremely upset about the fact that Tim Walz and what effectively was a 3-on-1 debate still managed to get cooked by based JD Vance. They're like, this guy's so young, so inexperienced, it's impossible that he'll defeat Tampon Tim. But no, they made a bad pick. They should have went with Shapiro, but no, they had to be a bunch of little anti-Semites and screw themselves over. Let me go ahead and show you, starting with this clip of JD Vance cooking these radical fake news debate moderators who promised they weren't going to do some biased fact checking. Take a look.
And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
And then have the audacity to try to cut the mics? Oh, hell no. You already know that now, guys, the fake news media, their trust is already at all-time low. The fact that you would even do this in this situation, just let him speak. Let him say what he has to say. Prove that you're non-biased. Don't like, okay, he's saying something we don't want him to say. There's a little bit of back and forth. Back and forth during debates is good. Hell, even at one point, even during the ABC debate, they let Trump and Kamala go back and forth at least like one time. So that's not a bad thing. The fact that they chose to like cut this, it just proves that they're biased partisan hacks. As soon as you're fact checking the fact checkers, then it's no fun anymore. What the left-wing fake news media wants to be able to do is claim that they're doing a fact check with impunity, enabling them to be wrong about any and everything. And then when you try to call them out on it, whoa, you're not debating me as a moderator. I'm just telling you things that are factual. No. You throw your hat in the ring and you try to disrupt what Vance is trying to say, or Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, then yeah, you're putting yourself in the ring to get popped just like anybody else. Not like physically, but you know what I'm saying? Metaphorically, verbally, in any other way. because you're throwing your hat in the ring and you are literally debating point by point. So be prepared to get cooked by Vance.
It was a masterclass. I mean, it was just a spectacular performance. I mean, he understood the facts. He steamrolled the moderators when they tried to fact check him with nonsense, right? He was 100% right. Notice they didn't do that again. He had just such a command. It was interesting. I tweeted during the thing, I'm watching Tim Walz going like this as JD saw every time. I mean, the optics of it was terrible. I think Tim Walz is voting for Trump Vance.
When they were talking, at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting. Vance was right, okay? There's nuance to it, but the bigger problem is why he was moved on. We've got so much to get to. This says who? You know what I mean? Like, what is the schedule here? So you have a list of topics? That's not what it's about. It's about how the American people can access these two men and the two theories and the narratives, and you got to let them have their speak, because now you created a story where you're the problem.
JD Vance said, I'm not having that. Okay, we're going to talk about this illegal migrant situation, because now to reiterate what JD Vance said, instead of actually following the law normally, now what the Democrats are trying to do is blur the lines, change what's considered legal and what's considered illegal. So you therefore have people just applying on this app saying they're seeking asylum. They fly them over the border, so it doesn't count as an illegal border crossing, even though they're here undocumented. So since they didn't cross the border, just walking over it, they're like, well, they're not illegal. They applied for asylum. We flew them in. Bada bing, bada boom, no problem. And then they're trying to be disingenuous, and these debate moderators rightfully got cooked off of this stupid technicality and by trying to do fact checking that they promised they wouldn't do. Apparently these two weirdo woke leftists didn't get the memo. Nicole Wallace of MSDNC was very upset by the fact that JD Vance was apparently mansplaining these two female, the strong and empowered female debate moderators, because JD Vance scared them with his mere words, where he was trying to defend himself after their ridiculous fact checks.
Like muting powers. And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment JD Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't pretend to know how everyone will react to this. I think that a lot of women in positions of authority that should command respect just by virtue of that dynamic will see themselves in some dude that disrespected them and talked over. I mean, there was a moment like that with then vice presidential in the Harris-Pence debate.
I'm going to show another clip about the economy, because JD Vance cooked Tampon Tim on this too. Like, the Democrats don't have any winning issues, guys. Take a look.
Give a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. So many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on. If you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics show that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you've simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
At this point, Tampon Tim's already burnt to a crisp, but trust me, guys, we're just getting started because it definitely does not end there. He also went in on the abortion issue that I was discussing earlier, where apparently Tampon Tim cannot defend this whole abortion at the 9th month, and in some cases, after birth, you have a botched abortion, the baby is effectively born, still alive. What happens to the baby after that? Who the hell knows? It's not the doctor's responsibility, apparently, to make sure that a baby in a botched abortion is taken care of. Effectively, it is a born child, and if they happen to be born alive, then this is something that J.D. Vance called out. Tampon Tim disputes it falsely, claiming that, oh, that's just not how it works. When J.D. Vance says, well, how does it work? He has no explanation.
The statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Norah, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate.
This guy just came in completely unprepared. Even CNN thinks that that's the case.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on Walz's part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe, yeah.
He had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say that he didn't listen and said when J.D. Vance said one of the many, many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind. I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
Now, I'm going to show you guys the most embarrassing thing about this entire beating that J.D. Vance gave. He just...
That's crazy.
This was horrendous. I'm going to show you the most embarrassing thing about this was the Tiananmen Square commentary. Now, CBS claims they didn't give Tim Walz the answers for this debate, or the questions for this debate ahead of time, and I believe it. Notice that ABC didn't say, well, I think ABC did say they didn't give the debate questions ahead of time, but they were clearly lying. But in this case, we know for sure that is true because Tim Walz, he just seemed like he was completely unprepared for this question. And to be honest with you, I'm shocked that they asked him this question because they called him out on saying basically he's a bad leader because it seems like he just lies and misspeaks a lot, because the Tiananmen Square question came up like, hey, you said you were in Tiananmen Square during riots and protests, but you weren't even there. What's up with that?
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska.
I grew up in a middle-class family.
town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17 to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farming, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment back home, and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers.
2,000 years later.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
What I think isn't as relevant as what I was hearing from Democrats who were kind of doing it, whatever you do to cringe over a text, they were not thrilled about that answer.
It was very cringy. I mean, and he should have known that it was coming.
This dude made himself look like a complete idiot. And that was a hell of a stumble. Like, you would think that he would have, in my opinion, like, I feel like on the spot, he could have just answered better than that. Just give his answer, give a short answer. Oh, I misspoke. You know, it was like, look, I wouldn't look too deep into it. Like, you can point out one little thing, but this is just something where I'm speaking about a lot of different subjects very quickly. I got the dates confused. It is what it is, and just leave it at that. But no, I mean, this dude like crumbled. You saw these stupid, ridiculous faces that he keeps making during this debate. What is it with Kamala Harris making the really smug faces and doing the little hand gestures and all? The bar was extremely low for Kamala Harris, because the fact that they gave her credit for these stupid faces she was making, she's making practically freaking kissy faces at Donald Trump, and they were giving kudos for that. And then you got Tampon Tim over here is making the face like he had the complete fear of God in him, like JD Vance, and all his masculinity was just too much. The aura emanating from JD Vance was too much for Tampon Tim to handle. Okay, he had too much estrogen. He's like, it's too much masculinity for all the estrogen flowing through Tampon Tim. Okay, so he wants to have a debate versus somebody more feminine. Okay, but of course the fake news leftists were having full-blown meltdowns, trying to find a way to spin and defend, and they just can't, guys. They just can't, no matter how hard they try. And you guys know I love to see the meltdowns, and I cannot wait till the election. But for now, we got to settle for their meltdowns over this VP debate. Take a look.
He's been absent. I think that's a huge mistake to hold him back and not put him out there.
Meaning he hasn't been on the media
He
for a
hasn't been
while,
out in the media for a while. He's been absent. I do think that's a missed opportunity.
I feel like that was really effective. But I think overall tonight, if you're an undecided voter in America, I don't know that you come away with tonight with an additional clarity. It kind of reminded me of the June 27th debate when Kamala Harris that night said of Joe Biden, it was a slow start but a strong finish. And that's how I felt that Tim Walz kind of did tonight. You know, to use Tim Walz's own words, I mean, a lot about this debate tonight was weird. There were uncomfortable, cringy moments, but overall, I think my takeaway was something that Reince Priebus said on the outset, which was that J.D. Vance needed to come away as that humble, likable guy from Hillbilly Elegy. It seemed like he did perhaps get some points in that area.
First, David, I got to say, I think that Walz did seem unsteady. And frankly, what I saw in Walz is somebody who has not faced questions on a national stage since he became the Democratic nominee. He was simply out of practice. I mean, I don't know why they've done it, but they've kept him out of the limelight. They've kept him away from reporters. They haven't had him do any interviews. And he was clearly unsteady through much of that debate. And in contrast, J.D. Vance was very smooth. He took the arguments not to Walz. He was very respectful of Walz, took it to Kamala Harris.
I think we shouldn't lose track, I think even in the civility, of the fact that J.D. Vance came to this debate to land a bunch of punches. And he did. He landed a lot of punches in between all the niceties and all of that. And the thing that really stood out to me was that Tim Walz did not seem prepared for it.
He lied the entire night. He lied about American energy production, which is up. He said it's down. He lied about health care. He said Donald Trump saved Obamacare. You have to be literally... Donald Trump is the gaslighter in chief, and this is his loyal lieutenant who came out here to try to polish up the crazy. And I think Americans need to be very, very careful. This is a very, very deceptive guy.
There is no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate. Vance proved himself to be someone who could moderate his tone, who could be agreeable where necessary. He wasn't the wicked, aggressive stereotype that the mainstream media has made him out to be. I think that Vance emerged absolutely unscathed, and I think Walz tread water. Yeah.
That was so glorious. I love the leftist tears, okay? I got a bottle. I don't have a cup, but I have a bottle. I'm going to just pretend like these are leftist tears. Delicious.
I mean, it's pretty clear Vance outclassed Walz tonight. I mean, I was watching this, and all I could think of was, man, Walz is so in over his head. I mean, can you imagine this guy sitting in the White House Situation Room with that facial expression that's like 50% sheer terror and 50% extreme bafflement? I mean, it was amazing, the split screen difference between a competent Vance and a totally in over his head Walz. The answer on why he lied about his trips to China and the Tiananmen Square thing was probably the worst VP debate meltdown since Stockdale in '92. You know, who am I and why am I here? It was 2.5 minutes of absolute terrible. For Vance, night of redemption. All the political media has told us that Vance was a terrible pick and Walz was going to bring in all these voters. That charade is now over. Walz does not belong at this level of American politics. Vance does. Final verdict, Tim Walz wandered into the wrong bar tonight.
Man, I cannot wait to see the tears during this election, because you know that J.D. Vance's rallies is about to be turned up. They're about to be crazy, because now people are going to be looking at him like he's not just a VP. Now he's looking more like a future presidential candidate, including in my eyes, because he had a masterclass here. He came across as friendly and likable and just like a normal guy trying to have a friendly debate against Tampon Tim, an incompetent loser, and he pulled it off amazingly. Tim Walz just seemed like he was a freaking deer in the headlights. Like, how the hell did I get here? Like, it seemed like it's like he was like I don't know, he was a McDonald's worker like Kamala said she was, and then he just suddenly got escalated to running for vice president of the United States, and he just didn't know what the hell to do. Like, he just wasn't used to this amount of pressure, like all of the foreign policy stuff that he needs to learn and pick up on, the ability to quickly answer questions and pivot and not look like a damn fool in front of all of America. Like, he clearly either practiced too much, didn't practice enough. In my opinion, he didn't practice enough. I think Dana Trash don't know what the hell she's talking about. I think Tim Walz did not practice enough. Regardless of what people say, I don't believe there's such thing as too much practice. I think if you get the right practice, you're never going to go wrong. If anybody stumbles and fumbles and mumbles and tumbles during a debate like Mr. Tampon Tim here, you clearly did not practice as much as you should have. You didn't know what the hell to say. If you get enough practice, you're going to know what to say in all these different scenarios, and he failed miserably. Those are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Who won the debate? Was it J.D. Vance? Was it Tampon Tim? You guys let me know what you guys think. I think J.D. Vance cooked, smoked, destroyed, eviscerated, annihilated, nuked, and Thanos snapped this man out of existence. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Governor, you said you become friends with school shooters during the debate. Can you clarify what you meant on that?
Can you clarify what you meant when you said you'd be friends with school shooters?